Hi, I'm Chef David Willow. Welcome to Sullivan University, where today we'll be learning. All right, so we're going to start working on the golden chiffon cake. We're going to put some oranges on there. So we want to start with our icing. We're going to start using this bettercream. It's made by a company called Riches. They've been around forever. Now, when you're working with this, you want to start by shaking it up. There's a little bit of separation that goes on. Also, we've got a little bit left over. No, we've got a lot left over from this morning. So you're going to start off with a little bit of this. Now, this is one of those things that makes this better than whipped cream. Whipped cream, you'd never get away with this. But with bettercream, you can do this. You could use it straight out of the bowl. It's pretty good texture, but I'm going to show you what you can do if it's over whipped or if it's been sitting for a while and it's gotten really stiff. Okay, we're going to pour about half the volume of the pre-whipped in on top of it, of the liquid. And it doesn't matter, you just want a little bit of wet in there. Could be more, could be less. Now if you use the whole one of these, set it down on the table like this. Okay, once you poured out the last that you're willing to wait for, set it down, wait about 2-3 minutes, then turn it over again. You'll get about 2 more ounces out of that quart. And when we talk about loss in yield, look man, 2 ounces out of every one in that quart, that's 24 ounces. That's almost a whole quart that you would have thrown away. And this stuff isn't cheap. It's not terrible. I don't like it. I don't like the flavor of it. It's a little bit, I don't know, fake to me. But it's fun to work with. It's nice because you can re-whip it so you don't have any loss. Anything that's left over, you just stick it in the cooler, put a label on it, okay, pull it out when we need it, put it in a bowl with a little bit of fresh, and it whips up really quick if you're starting with some already. So that's a benefit of it. You could actually freeze this on the cake and then thaw the cake with this on it, and it will stabilize in the freezer and it won't go away. You can play with it for quite a while before it becomes too stiff. We got the little shelf liner things again today. If you want to use those, they're really handy. If we don't have enough to go around, you can always just throw a little damp piece of wipe away on there. Okay, so we're on about medium-high speed. As you get closer to whipped, and again, where you want to watch is close to the whip. Look at what the wires of the whip are doing as it goes through. As it gets a little stiffer, it'll show there. Around the outside edge, it's always going to look a little loose. So keep watching the center of the bowl, and I'll show you the peak that we're looking for, okay, when we're ready to go. I don't want it too stiff because the longer I work with it, the more it's going to get stiff, and that doesn't give me enough time to practice. Maybe if I'm combing, I need to recomb. It starts to get stiff, it starts to get grainy looking, and that's not going to be okay. Pretty close, just a little bit more. All right, so let me try this out. And what I want to do to test the peak, don't be calling me over, Chef Williams, is this okay? And it's running in the mixer. I don't know. Pull that out, let the peak form, and then turn it over. That's kind of loose yet, so I want it to whip just a little bit more. See how it broke over right at the base? But not much more. I want it to break over about midway. If it's too soft, it'll run right off your cake. You'll never get this stuff on your cake. So you want it set up right. We've got our golden chiffon cake out. Stephanie, would you grab that big old pot of syrup over there? We're going to need that too. You set that right here. Thank you so much. And Summer, can I have that bottle of liquor that's right behind you? All right, so we decided we're going to garnish this with oranges. We want there to be an orange flavor inside. And so the syrup that I'm going to put on the layers of cake, I'm going to flavor with a little triple sec. It's a cheap orange liqueur. I mean, you could use Grand Marnier if you like throwing money away, but it's really not worth it for Grand Marnier. So it's going to get buried in this cake. This is a good flavor for what we're looking for. We just want a good, strong orange flavor. Speeding things up a little bit. All right, let's check this peak again. And again, we're going to come straight up and over. That's much better. Might like it a little bit further down. Okay, it's got a fairly stiff peak, but at least it breaks over at the tip. If it were straight up and down, that could be a problem. And the longer it sits, the stiffer it's going to get too. Could I have, does anybody have a large piping bag? Oh, thank you very much. Your number 3 star tip. Pop the end off. Thank you guys. We'll go ahead and load this up now. Make sure you know where that goes. It doesn't end up in your cake or on the bottom of your cake or anywhere where people are going to wonder why there's medical waste in their food. It's not medical waste. Well, that's already on Facebook, so everybody thinks it is. You write your own story, or they'll write it for you. Drop your tip in there. Again, number 3 star. It's a small star tip. We're going to make rosettes with this. It's also what we'll make shell borders with later on. It's a great little tip to have for doing decoration. Okay, let's go ahead and do our syrup while we're standing here. So I want this to have a good orange flavor. I'm going to put just a little bit in there.
Just a little.
I want this to be pretty strong because I'm not going to put that much on the cake. But I expect this cake to taste like the orange liqueur when I'm done. Woo! Yes, Chef Walton's going to go back one more time. Here we go.
You're trying to marry him on Friday.
Yeah, that's right. Trying to get liquored up. I'll set that back over there. I like to show that off. People see that we're actually working with booze. All right, so we're going to go ahead and load up our bag. With our bettercream. We can put this aside. Again, we don't want to wait too long because it's going to get stiff. Whoa, that's not good. And we'll set that over there next to our cake. We'll need that in a minute. So we got our syrup. Oh, I'm going to need a pastry brush too. Would you want to grab me a pastry brush, please, Stephanie?
Up top.
I know. This guy.
Right there.
How come we're not doing the raspberry one?
Raspberry.
Shut up the video.
Oh, I don't know. Because they won't buy me raspberries like him. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, sometimes they're a little stiff. I'll take and whack them on the table to loosen the bristles up. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to mop on some syrup with that brush. Now, before I get started, I need to go ahead and torque this cake. Method is the same as it always was. You want to get that knife nice and flat in your hand with a loose grip. If you can't hold it level to the ground, that's going to be a problem. Pick 1/3. Okay. And then begin to saw. Do not use the turntable as your sawing motion. Use your hand. Let it cut into the cake. Keep your eye right here between the top and the layer of the cake, or the top and the knife. It started coming up a little bit, so I backed up, took a second bite. You'll come around, you'll find the cut you were making. Keep it going around. Take some practice to get that good, and get good at making that flat. That's not too bad. You can see where I changed my angle just a little bit. That's all right. Now this last one, just a matter of splitting it in half. I'm gonna save that top and put it on the, to make it my top again. Now, quick word about that crust that's formed on there. You take your glove and rub that off. That color difference will really show up against the bettercream. So if you are so inclined, you can work that crust off of there. On these sponge cakes, you'll get that. If you take that off, that doesn't show so much in the transition. And that can be a good thing. It's the gloves that really help this happen, because your gloves will grip the cake. Just be careful you don't go too far and sand a divot into your cake. And you can also do that around the outside edge. I don't have much of it, and so it's very lightly baked, well baked. You guys must have a good instructor. Ha! Let's get those crumbs off there before something bad happens. Put this back down. Okay, we're going to center up. Make sure, and this is where it becomes important, that we're centered on our board. Our cake should be slightly smaller than our board. We want to be equidistant from the edge of the cardboard cake circle all the way around. Okay, now we're going to start syruping that first layer. Take your brush, really mop it on there. Probably get that just a little bit closer. All right, just slop it on. Put it on pretty heavy. It should make your cake look a little dark. Okay? That's not soaking through the cake immediately. It takes time for that to soak down through the cake. It's like a sponge. If you set a sponge down in water, it'll soak up all that water. It's just going to take a little time. So you want to go ahead and get that syrup. Now I don't syrup those because they become soft when you do. So it's not a good idea to start syruping cakes ahead of time. All right, now we're ready to do our first layer. We're going to start with our palette knife and our clean palette knife, that is to say. I'm going to take our rubber spatula, put a good dollop right there in the middle. How much do I want between the layers?
Half the width of the cake.
About half the thickness. It's about twice as sweet, so I want about half as much. Using those first 3 inches of the palette knife, work that around. Keep that elbow up. I want to start making this flat right from here. Don't think, oh, I'll do it later when it matters. It does matter here. You create a peak on your cake starting right now. I'm not going to go right to the edge because I want to be able to see the edge, but I'm going to get down here and take a look and make sure I'm nice and level, which I am. Next layer. Center it on top of the lower level. You can't see that lower level if you push the riches over the edge. So just right to the edge. Once you're there, you can push down just a little bit. Let's go syrup this one. Each layer is going to get syruped. The only one I'll do different is the top layer. I'm going to syrup the bottom of it. You can syrup the top, but that can run into issues with your bettercream not adhering. It looks like a lot. What you really need to put on there is about 2 ounces of syrup, 2 fluid ounces. So if I were inclined and I wanted to make sure I was getting enough, I might measure out 2 ounces of syrup and work that into the layers. Here's 2. I did this for my CEPC, Certified Executive Pastry Chef certification. And here we go again. What?
Did you mean to switch layers?
Oh, did I? Oh, I did too. Nah, that's all right. Right around the edge, keeping that elbow up, nice and flat, first 3 inches only. Make sure you're good and level. You start getting off level now, it's only going to get worse later. Now, I'm going to syrup the bottom of what will become the top layer. I would have stuck with my top layer, but I misordered them. You can syrup the top of your last layer. It's not going to kill you. You've been doing it all along. But there are sometimes issues with the bettercream adhering to the syrup. If you have to, this is the time to shift it. I just don't want anything sticking out over that cardboard cake circle. If it is, it's going to become a big problem later on. Give a little CPR. Make sure everybody's going to stick to everybody else. I got a nice flat top to start with. Okay? So I'm good to go. Now then, let's get some crumbs off of there. I'm not fighting those. I'm going to load up. And remember, I syrup the bottom of that top. So there's still syrup on there. And it will soak in. Again, like a sponge, it'll draw water up. Well, this will draw that syrup up. Given about an hour, hour or 2, that syrup will soak through those layers really well. Okay? So I got way more on there than I think I'm going to need. It's never more than I need. And I want to ride the whipped topping around, push it over the edge, get a nice even coat on the top. Now it can become difficult to know how much you have on the top. Just take your finger and poke it in there just to see how deep it is. That's pretty deep. I might push it around a little bit more. Where'd that come from? Pick up a little bit on the tip of your knife. Again, look, I've seen people in the class this morning doing this. You don't have any control. You're not going to do anything good. Like, and they're messing around. Hold it like you're going to kill somebody with it. Now it's a tool. Break over. Okay, do the job the way it's intended to be done. I've seen thousands of decorators, and they all do it like this. If they're not using a side ice or something. Even if you are using a side icer, you're going to have to go to this technique to flatten your icing out. And holding it like a pencil isn't going to give you any control. All the way around. wad up off of here and move it around. It's riding down on me.